From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 11, Text 16. Nayavadetan manatmalingam samsarathapavanam janasya yakchokamoha mayaragalobha Vairanubhandam mamatam vidhate. No, no. Yavat, as long as etad, this, manaha, mind, atmalingam, existing as the false designation of the soul, samsaratapa, of the miseries of this material world, avapanam, the growing ground, janasya, of the living being, yat, which, soka, of lamentation, moha, of illusion, amaya, of disease, raga, of attachment, lobha, of greed, vaira, of enmity, anubandham, the consequence, mamatam, the sense of ownership, vidhate, gives. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The soul's designation, the mind, is the cause of all tribulations in the material world. As long as this fact is unknown to the conditioned living entity, he has to accept the miserable condition of the material body and wander within this universe in different positions. Because the mind is affected by disease, lamentation, illusion, attachment, greed, and enmity, it creates bondage and a false sense of intimacy within this material world. Please repeat. The soul's designation, the mind, is the cause of all tribulation in the material world. As long as this fact is unknown to the conditioned living entity, he has to accept the miserable condition of the material body and wander within this universe in different positions. Because the mind is affected by disease, lamentation, illusion, attachment, greed, and enmity, it creates bondage and a false sense of intimacy within this material world. Purport. The mind is the cause of both material bondage and liberation. The impure mind thinks, I am this body. The pure mind knows that he is not the body. Therefore, the mind is considered to be the root of all material designation. Until the living entity is aloof from the association and contamination of this material world, the mind will be absorbed in such material things as birth, death, disease, illusion, attachment, greed, and enmity. In this way, the living entity is conditioned and he suffers material miseries. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadabhayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagradatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadadutam Prajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Veda Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Pancha Kalpatarviyascha Kripa Sandubhyevacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. So continuing the verse, chapter 5, Canto 5, chapter 11, where Jada Bharat is giving the instructions to Maharaj Raghugana. As we know, this entire chapter is focused on the mind, and Jada Bharata is actually replying to the questions of King Maharaj Raghugana, who accepted him as his guru. So in this verse we see, I'll read the translation again. The soul's designation, the mind, is the cause of all tribulations in the material world. As long as this fact is unknown to the conditioned living entity, he has to accept the miserable condition of material body and wander within this universe in different positions. Because the mind is affected by disease, lamentation, illusion, attachment, greed, and enmity, it creates bondage and a false sense of intimacy within this material world. So, very important point here mentioned by Jada Bharat, that the cause of all tribulation in the material world is the mind. So, as we know, mana eva manusyanam karana bandha mokshayo bandhaya vishaya sango vimuktir nirvishaya manaha. That means if the mind is, which is absorbed in sense object, leads to bondage, and the mind, when is absorbed in detachment, in Krishna consciousness, it leads to mukti, vimukti. So actually the mind, it's, as I was mentioning in the previous class, the mind is something which we need to use to achieve success. If we talk about material activities, recently I saw an interview, Cristiano Ronaldo, so he's a football player, right? He's almost 40 years old now. I think he's 38. So usually people retire from sports around maximum 35, 34, very hardly 35 also. But in the interview, he said how he was able to achieve that position till now is because his mind is very disciplined. So even when you speak about material activities, the mind, unless the mind is controlled, you cannot achieve success in that field of activity. Anybody, any successful person you see in the world, example Cristiano I was giving you, he achieved success in football because his mind was able to dedicate and prioritize the time for that activity. So, but it is only that activity. So he may be a very expert in this area of life, but in terms of sense control, he is not expert. He is like the rest of us. But when you speak about Krishna consciousness, you are talking about mind control in every area of life, not just football. Somebody may be able to have a very high level of mind control in sports. Somebody may have high level of mind control in scientists, They're doing so much of research, like Elon Musk and all this. But they cannot control the sense. As I was giving example, Cristiano Ronaldo, he was caught having sex with prostitutes. So there was no mind control in terms of sense. He cannot control the sense. But when you talk about Krishna consciousness encompasses everything in life. The entire human life is meant to attain the platform of Krishna consciousness, to attain love of Krishna. So they are able to control the mind because they love that sport. They have, they said raganuga. They have raganuga towards a certain activity, so the mind is able to control. But for us, it's very difficult because we do not have raganuga towards Krishna. We are still doing Vaidhi Bhakti. We are still doing rules and regulations. We are trying to we are trying to push ourselves to control the mind, to wake up. Prabhupada was saying, one of the quote, if you are very enthused to wake up in the morning, that means you know that you are advanced in Krishna consciousness. If you are very happy to chant, that means your mind is controlled. But if you are struggling, you're pushing your mind, like, I need to chant, I need to wake up, including myself, struggling. So that means we are not there in the platform of Raghunaga. It's a very far away position. So the whole idea of Krishna consciousness is to change the entire life, to mold our life in every way possible, that the mind is controlled. And when the mind is controlled, the mind can achieve, the soul can achieve the lotus feet of Krishna. You see? So honestly, this is not an unnatural position. You must understand, Mame Vamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Manasastindriyani Prakriti Stani Karshati. Krishna says the living entity in this conditioned world are my fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So we are part and parcel of Krishna. We must understand this. So as being a part and parcel of Krishna, we also have the natural Krishna Bhakti. What is that verse? The natural love of Krishna is in the heart. Nitya Krishna, Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti, Satya Kabanoy, Sarvanada Suttajite Karaya Udoy. The natural love for Krishna is ready in the heart. It's not unnatural. Material things is unnatural to do. Now we are using our mind to achieve material success. Right? Why we want to achieve material success? Because we are covered with avidya. If you see this verse, ignorance. And Krishna is explaining here to Uddhava, Yasyasyur Vita Sankalpa Pranendriya Manodhyam Vrityaya Sa Vinirmukto Dehasto Pihi Tad Gunai. So Krishna is saying a person is considered to be completely liberated from gross and subtle material bodies when the function of his vital energy sense perform without material desire. Sorry, I think it's not this verse. Sorry, 11.11.4. Yeah, not this verse. So you can take note of this verse, very important. Ekaseva mamamsaya jivasya mahamate bando swavidyayananadir vidyaya cha tatetaraha. O most intelligent Uddhava, the living entity called Jiva is part and parcel of me, but due to ignorance, he has been suffering in material bondage since time immemorial. This is called Anadi. We have no idea for how long we are here. We are covered with ignorance. This is the thing. Even though the natural love for Krishna is there, you are a part and parcel of Krishna, you are meant for the service of Krishna. But since time immemorial, we are in avidya. But Krishna says, by knowledge, however, he can be liberated. But if you seek knowledge, so that is why the Lord came and he wrote, as we he gave the knowledge of the Vedas. There's a Guru Parampara. Vyasadev came and he broke the Vedas into 4 parts and Brahma Sutras. So many spiritual masters are here to give this knowledge, how to revive that lost consciousness. Because now we are covered in ignorance, the mind is covered in ignorance, we are planning and living our life according to this ignorance. Because now you are identifying with the body. So you're going to plan your life according to what makes the body happy. That's why we are into sense gratification. Because we think I am the body. It's like you're putting your example Prabhupada gave many times. You're cleaning the cage, but you're not taking care of the bird inside. So we are giving so much importance to the body due to this covering called avidya. And this mind is so much deeply absorbed. It is absorbed in this avidya. Like if you see Prahlad Maharaj saying, Naivo Dvije Parad Dhurata Vaitaranyas. What is that? 7943. Prahlad Maharaj saying here, Naivo Dvije Paraduracya Vaitaranyastadvirya Ghayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta So Chetato Vimukha Cheta Sendriyartha Maya Sukaya Bharam Utpato Vimudhan. Recently we saw, I was in Perumal temple, there was a van in the car park, and the van belongs to a company, oil company, and the company name is Vimudha Private Limited. So people are naming their companies Vimuda also. They don't even know what is the meaning. Huh? Huh? Vimuda? Is it? What does that mean? Oh. But the spelling was like. So Prahlad Maharaj says, O best of the greatest personality, I am not at all afraid of material existence. For wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in the thoughts of your glories and activities. Naivo Dvije Parad Dhurata Vaitaranas. You see, Tadvirya Ghayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta. So see this line. Tadvirya Ghayana. Oh, what is this? Sorry. So he's saying, I am Magna Chitta, right? I'm fully absorbed in the Virya Ghayana, in the most glorious pastimes. So he's fully absorbed, like when you eat the gulab jam, right? It is totally soaking inside the sugar water, right? So like that, he is completely absorbed. So this is a natural position of the devotee. A pure devotee is naturally absorbed in serving the Lord, in engaging in glorifying the Lord. This is what we are meant to be. But instead of being absorbed and drowning in this Krishna prema, we are drowning in Maya's prema. We are the opposite. We are happily swimming in this ocean of science. In this non-existential platform, we are trying to find happiness. So he is saying, Soche tato vimukha chetasa indriyartha. We are struggling with these six senses. I mean, including the mind, the knowledge acquiring senses, right? These senses are like the vibes. We will see the verse later. So Prahlad Maharaj will also say later. So he says, I want to help these people who are trapped in this Maya Sukha. See, my concern is only for those fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I'm simply concerned with love for them. So this is the pure devotee's position, that he wants to save the people like us who are absorbed in such ignorance, because we are not able to control the mind. And so earlier I showed, because anadi, causeless, we have no idea what is the cause of our fall down actually. So similarly, you also need causeless mercy to come out of this causeless fall down. And that causeless mercy can be only given by the pure devotee of the Lord, like Prahlad Maharaj, like Srila Prabhupada. It's a cause. Prabhupada, actually, whatever we are experiencing right now, whatever little Krishna consciousness we are able to do, is not possible without the causeless mercy of Prabhupada. There was one memory of Prabhupada which was shared by one of the disciples of Prabhupada. They asked him, say, Prabhupada, it says that, if you do a lot of pious activity, you will born as a devotee eventually. But we are not pious at all. We are doing so much of sinful activities. We are eating meat from young time, drinking, drugs. How we get this position of becoming devotees? Prabhupada said that I actually opened my hand and put my hand into the drain and took you out. So it's a costless mercy. You see, now let's say imagine you're trapped in the well, okay, and then you shouting for help. Actually, we are not even shouting for help. We are happy to stay in the well. Let's say you shout for help and ask. So now, if somebody's hand comes inside to save you, you cannot reach the hand also. Imagine, imagine the hand is coming. You are so far away from that hand. But let's say the person throws a rope and brings you out. If you catch the rope, so just take it as the rope is the Guru Parampara. The Lord is throwing the rope of Guru Parampara. The Guru is sending to save you from that well. Krishna is trying his best to save all of us, and he's throwing his ropes, but we have to catch it. We have to catch the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Then you can come out of that well. So similarly, Prahlad Maharaj is saying that we are all absorbed in this ignorance. And if you see another verse, he says, just three verses before, here he says, "My dear Lord, O infallible one, my position is like that of a person who has many wives, all trying to attract him in their own way. For example, the tongue is attracted to palatable dishes, the genitals to sex with an attractive woman, and the sense of touch to contact with soft things. The belly, although filled, still wants to eat more, and the ear, not attempting to hear about you, is generally attracted to cinema songs." So this is why we also don't listen to this karmi song. You know, sometimes some devotees they say it's harmless. Why not? You can see because the ear will bring away. Every senses is going different directions. The sense of smell is attracted to yet another sight. The restless eyes are attracted to the scene of sense gratification, and the active senses are attracted elsewhere. In this way, I'm certainly embarrassed. Of course, he's not embarrassed, but he's telling how the mind, because you see, these senses can be easily controlled with the mind. You understand? Individually, individually may not be possible to control these senses. But if you control the chief of the senses, the leader, then automatically they all get control. So this is the situation of our lives. Because of not able to control the mind, covered with ignorance, avidya, we identify with this body. We are working so hard to satisfy this body. Whoever help us to satisfy our material desires, they become friends. Whoever is against that desire, they become enemies. And somebody may be a friend now, but in the future they stop our material desire, they also become enemy. Whole life is planned, friends, enemy, because I want to have some sense gratification based on material desire. And this is not natural. Sense gratification is not easy to acquire, Well, to imagine, what is the wealth one? 1123, the 8th. The wealth, the 8th kind of dangers. 13.
That's one 11 to 18.
11,319, the 8 kind of, is it? There's another version, I think 1123 only.
11 to 18.
So here you see, steyam himsantam dhamba kama krodha samayumada vedavairam avisyasa samspardha vyasanaicha. So you see here, these are the symptoms: theft, violence, speaking lies, duplicity, lust, anger, perplexity, pride, quarreling, enmity, faithlessness, envy, and the dangers caused by women, gambling, and intoxication are the 15 undesirable qualities contaminate men because of greed of wealth. Although these qualities are undesirable, men falsely ascribe value to them. One desiring to achieve the real benefit of life should remain aloof from undesirable material wealth. So, when we think that we are the body and we want to enjoy the body, you need to acquire money. When you need to acquire money, and you have no idea what is the purpose of life, you will start doing sinful activities, right? How to know whether you're doing sin? Question. How to know we are doing sin? Or we are doing punya? Or how we are doing papa? Shastra, correct. So, because we are already trapped in this material world, we are covered by ignorance, anadi, right? We are in avidya. So, the Lord wants to save us. He gives the shastra. He also gives the ways to do this yagya. In the third canto, third chapter of Gita. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan. So the Lord gives all these things. If you go to Bhagavad Gita, Sahagya Praja Shishtva Purovacha Prajapati Anena Prasavisyatvam Esavo Sva Ishat Hamaduk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." So the Lord knows that you are trapped in this material world. So He gives you the spiritual masters. He also gives you the ways of doing the yajna. He gives you the shastra. So if you follow the shastra, you can understand what is sin, what is punya, what is papa. You can understand how to liberate yourself. But because you are covered with avidya and absorbed in this bodily concept of life, you don't care about shastra, and you accumulate so much of sins. And by committing that sins, you again have to come and suffer, go to hell, come back, suffer, go to hell, come back. It's not easy. In the third canto, we can see going into the womb of the mother is such a painful situation, taking birth and suffering. So, like I was saying, to do this material life, it is not easy to do because it is not natural for the soul to do. Imagine, now you imagine there's a, those days they used to collect the rainwater, right? So if let's say they have houses, right? They put the, what do you call it, the water barrel, is it? The rain will come and then the water will be collected on the top. So when the water falls from the sky and it falls on the top, it's very easy, natural, easily you collect it. But let's say the water you collected on the ground level, and if you want to bring it upwards, now you have to bring water up to the HDB. It is not easy. It's not natural, right? Because natural way is water is falling down. But to use that same water to bring upwards, you need to create the mechanism. You need to do all the engineering. So much of hard work, effort to do the engineering just to bring the water. Now we are in the fourth floor, right? We are going against gravity. So similarly, sense gratification is like that. You have to engineer so many plans, so many ways. And then just now we saw the verse, 15 kinds of dangers that happens when you are doing these things. So this is how we are trapped, all because of the mind being absorbed in avidya. But our natural position is we are supposed to be part and parcel of Krishna. We are supposed to serve the Lord. If you see this verse in the 12th canto, Kashtubha Vyapadeshena Swatma Jyotir Bibarti Haja Tat Prabha Vyapini Sakshat Srivatsam Urasa Vibhu. It says here, upon the chest, the Almighty Unborn Personality Godhead bears the Kaustuba gem, which represents the pure spirit soul, along with the Srivatsa mark, which is the direct manifestation of the gem's expensive effulgence. So, your position is this. You are meant to sit on the chest of the Lord. The living entity, the pure devotees, they represent the Kaustuba gem. And of course, we know Kulashekar Alvar, when he appeared on the earth, Kulashekar Alvar was an expansion of the Kaustuba gem. So this is where all the pure living entities, they are sitting on the chest of the Lord. And then if you see that verse, Sadhava Hridayo Mayam, right? In the 9th canto, Krishna says, the devotees are seated in my heart. And I'm in their heart and they are in my heart. So why? Because we are supposed to be in his chest. We actually represent the I mean, along with the Sri Vatsa mark, which the Sri Vatsa mark represents Lakshmi Devi. So that is how close we are to the Lord. But we have forgotten. We don't even know that God is sitting in our heart, so close to us. He's the most closest thing ever to us, and yet we are saying he don't exist. Why? Because ignorance. We're covered in madness. Right? Because this is due to something called free will. Because you have free will, you are acting all foolishly. You see this verse 4:29, 26. The living entity by nature has minute independence to choose his own good or bad fortune. You have the choice. You have a choice to sit on the chairs of the Lord or leave that. But when he forgets his supreme master, the personality of Godhead, he gives himself up onto the modes of material nature. So now we are surrendering to Maya. Instead of surrendering to Krishna, we're surrendering to Maya. Being influenced by the modes of material nature, he identifies himself with the body and for the interest of the body becomes attached to various activities. As we are speaking, we are planning so many things. Let's do this, do that. Everything centered around I, me, and mine, my self-satisfaction. And in that journey, accumulating so much of sins and ensuring that we go through a repeated cycle of birth and death in various species of life, suffering. So he says sometimes he's under the influence of mode of ignorance, sometimes mode of passion, sometimes mode of goodness. The living entity does get different types of body under the modes of material nature. So due to material nature, going on and on and on, due to the uncontrollable mind. In the story of this Namalvar, he said, Namalvar said, actually Namalvar was sitting in the tree for 16 years. He was not speaking one word also because there was no qualified person to speak. So Namalvar is an expansion of Vishwakshena. When he was born, he does not even speak anything. So the parents named him Maran. Maran means someone very detached. And they do not know what to do with him. Child is not drinking milk, not eating, nothing doing. Just lying down only. So after 1 year, they saw this child is no use. They put him in the lotus feet of Vishnu and left him there. And then he crawled. After they left him there, he crawled into a tree. The tree is still there. The tree has been there since Dwapara Yuga. Because he was born 43 days after Krishna's appearance. Of course, many times he laments, I did not see the Lord personally. So he sat in the tree and 16 years went by, nothing. And one day, one person called Madhura Kavi Alvar, he saw there's a light coming. Madhura Kavi Alvar was having pilgrimage in somewhere in Uttar Pradesh, Prayag and all this. He saw a very bright light. He went towards that light. And he was going down, 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 down until down south. He saw the tree and this person was sitting there so effulgent. And then he thought, this person, is it alive or dead? He threw the stone and he saw some movement. Then he said, okay, this person is alive. Then many people were saying this guy is, he's just like a coma person sitting there. So he asked him one question. He said, if something small, what is that? Setra Vaitil Siriyadu Pirandal. In a womb of a dead, there is something very subtle living, a living and subtle being which is born in the womb of the dead. What does he eat and how does he live? This is the question. So there's a subtle body living in a dead body. What does he eat and how does he live? What does he do? Sorry, what does he eat and what does he do? Then is the first word he uttered after 16 years. He said, Attai tindru ange kidukum. That means it will stay there and you'll eat that. What it means is, we are born into this material world and we are in such ignorance, we are just living here, we are just eating here. Sometimes we are eating, according to different modes of nature, we are eating different things. Right? I think there's some verse like that, no, about eating. So he says this is how we are conditioned by avidya, that we are just going to born here, live here, eat here. But the deeper meaning is you are actually meant to live in the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And you're meant to engage in the service. And you're meant to have that, you know, connection with the Lord. And then after that, he goes on to speak the 1292 verses, which is part of the Divya Prapandam. And he enlightens his disciple about the supremacy of the Lord. So this is how, now the next point comes. We already established how we are not supposed to be here. We are stuck here. So similarly, just like how Madhur Kavi Alvar got enlightened, we also can be only enlightened by the mercy of the spiritual master. We cannot come out of this ignorance. There's no other way. You see here, Anadi avidya yuktasya. See again, Anadi. We have no idea when. Avidya. This avidya is Anadi. You can't even ascertain when it happened. Anadi avidya yuktasya purusasya atma vedanam swato na sambhavat anyas tattvagyo jnana do bhaved. Because a person who has been covered by ignorance since time immemorial, it is not capable of effecting his own self-realization. There must be some other personality who is in factual knowledge of the absolute truth and can impart this knowledge to him. Who is that person who can impart that knowledge? That is the Guru. If only we can take shelter of we can get the mercy of the Guru, and then it's possible to come out of this avidya, anadi avidya. You know? So there's no other way. Honestly, there is no other way out of this. And if you go to the verse 25, Radhastamascha satvena satvam chopasamayena cha etat sarvam guru bhaktya purushohi anjasa jayet. One must conquer the mode of passion and ignorance by developing the mode of goodness. And then one must become detached from the mode of goodness by promoting oneself to the platform of Shuddha Sattva. All this can be automatically done if one engages in the service of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. In this way, one can conquer the influence of the modes of nature. So the only way we can conquer the mind, we can conquer the modes of nature, we can conquer the avidya, is if we can get shelter of the spiritual master. And unfortunately, it's very difficult because even then, how to know who is Guru? That's why if you see, it's the devotees like Prahlad Maharaj and Prabhupada's movement is based on this only. To go out there and help others and preach this message. And by preaching this message, by repeating this knowledge, we also become dearer to the Lord. If you see the verse here, Prabhupada says, Shukadev Goswami says, Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hare Strotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyas Chetatabhyam. So Strotravya, Prabhupada wrote in one of the purports, you have to hear about who? Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma. Everyone should hear about Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari, the Supreme Lord Hari. You must give very keen attentive hearing. After that, what you should do? Kirtitavyascha. You should go and repeat this message. You should go and preach this message to everyone. And by this smartavyascha, so by this remembrance, you will be free from the fear. O descendants of King Bharata, one must desire to be free from all miseries, must hear about, glorify and also remember. So you hear, glorify means not just glorify by yourself. Glorify means to broadcast this message. Help others to come out of the avidya. Connect everyone back to the Guru Parampara of Srila Prabhupada. And then by doing that, you will automatically remember. When you are always glorifying the Lord, hearing and glorifying, remembrance comes. Then what happens? The personality got it. who is the super soul and controller, savior, and then you are saved from all miseries. Because Krishna will uplift you from this platform. So we have to all be part of this. First, we have to save ourselves. We have to take shelter of Prabhupada, we take shelter of the, Siksha Gurus, the devotees, the association, Sadhu Sangha. Always you see, the first thing is Sadhu Sangha. Then after that, we have to try our best to broadcast this. Then the mind can be easily be absorbed and controlled. If not, it is very easily, going to be going everywhere. Actually, it's not a. It's actually, if you think about it, it's a daily task. Maybe today we are in temple, we are in association, we are easily able to control the mind. But when we are alone, then the mind will say, let's do this, let's do that. Easy to get, so much easily to be distracted. So we have to always somehow keep in touch. Just like if you see the lotus, right? Lotus flower is connected to the water. Because it's connected to the water, the sun does not burn it. But the same lotus, if it's on the ground, you just leave it on the ground, the sun will become decayed. Because it's not connected to the water. And that water is what? The water is the association of the devotee. The water is the mercy of the spiritual master. If the water is not there, then you will be burnt. And the sun is like the Supreme Lord Krishna. He is giving his sun rays to everyone. He is equal to everyone. But unless you are having connection with the spiritual master, you cannot be able to appreciate that sunlight. That sunlight will be too scorching also. You get burnt, if you don't have the water, you get burnt. And similarly, that's how we should have the connection to the, or even if you think about cooking, right? When you're cooking the food, fire is going. You cannot cook by directly putting in the fire. You need a pot. The pot is the medium which comes in touch with the fire and cooks. So the Guru is like that. He absorbs the fire, the heat of Krishna, and he gives you. You see? You directly you also cannot approach. You get totally, you cannot understand. You speculate. So many people are reading the Vedas also, but they are mentally speculating and thinking Krishna is impersonal. Krishna is not a person. I am God. This is what happens when you don't have a pure bona fide Guru. That is another avidya. You are already in avidya. Now you think, Prabhupada said, this is last snare of Maya. To think I am one, I am God. So like that we can see in the life of Prahlad Maharaj also. He always gave credit to his spiritual master Narada Muni. He never even see the Guru actually. He had only heard from the womb. Personally, I think he hardly saw also. There was no personal, the Vani connection was there. And he was living, and throughout his life, actually if you think about Prahlad Maharaj, how many cantos in the 7th canto? How many chapters? Entire 7th chapter is given to him. And if you think about it, in the beginning of the chapter, Narada Muni is narrating the story of Prahlad Maharaj in the arena of the Rajasuya sacrifice to Yudhishthira. The Guru himself is glorifying his disciple, how great the disciple is. Right? Even in Mahabharata, if you see, Parashara Muni, he glorifies Vyasadeva. Somebody may say, oh, why his favoritism is glorifying his son? No, because he knows the son is Vyasam, what is that? Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya, Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave. He is actually Vishnu himself. Namo Vai Brahmanide Vashishtaya Namo Namaha. So, Parashara is also glorifying his son because he knows this is Vishnu himself, pure devotee, and he did something, such a great thing. He wrote the Shastra, for all of us to benefit from. The person who wrote Vishnu Puran is glorifying his own son like that. And we can see how Narada Muni is glorifying Prahlad Maharaj in such a Actually, I don't think anyone, if you look at any other canto, the canto has Dhruva Maharaj and then different characters, you know. Prachinabari, Bharat Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj has an entire full canto. Then what is the level of devotee he was? Exalted devotee. So by taking shelter of such kind of pure devotees, then only is possible we can control the mind and come out of this avidya ignorance. So I think I will stop here. So there is no questions. We will stop here then.